Alrighty, so welcome to our first Zoom session of the Urbana Sustainability Advisory Commission. We'll go ahead and get started. Scott, would you please call the roll?
Stacy Gloss.
Present.
Dustin Allred.
Maybe he's on mute.
Present.
Tomas Delgado.
Present.
Megan McGinty.
Present.
Andrew Stump.
Present.
Morgan White.
Here.
Grace Wilkin.
Present.
Maddie Garbas.
Okay, we have a quorum this evening, so we'll go ahead and proceed. Part of the packets that you all received by email earlier in the week included the minutes from both the February 2020 meeting as well as the March 2020 meeting. So I will go ahead and work with the February minutes first. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the February meeting?
I move to approve the February minutes.
Thank you, Morgan. Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. Thank you, Tomas. Are there any changes or requests for changes to the minutes? Okay, not hearing any. All in favor of approving the minutes from the February meeting, say aye.
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 Aye. Excellent. Thank you. So that passes and those minutes are now approved. Moving on to the March minutes, is there a motion to approve the minutes from March?
I move to approve those minutes from March.
Okay, moved by Morgan. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Andy. Are there any changes or updates that are needed for the March minutes? One of the things that I would request for a change would be that the Youth Sustainability Summit in March, as discussed, stated that April 18th, 2020 was chosen for the date of the Youth Sustainability Summit. At this time, I guess I wonder, could we, I propose just going ahead and putting a note that says that that event has been put on hold due to COVID-19. Thank you.
Then we can do that.
Is there any further discussion on the minutes? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes as amended, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, that carries as well. Thank you very much. Okay, are there any changes or additions to the agenda for this evening? And on this agenda we have this evening are the staff report, an update for the Youth Sustainability Summit, if we have anyone present that can discuss that with us, and a staff presentation on the annual report. Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll move with the agenda as it is. I'm looking through the roll. There are 9 participants currently on the call. So I don't see anybody participating that could provide public comment. If anybody, I guess with the new online format, either Scott or Jason, could people provide comment for meetings ahead of the meeting if they weren't here? Is that something that would need to be read into the agenda or into the minutes?
People can always email staff or the chair. I think the chair and some of the members have their email addresses posted on the city website, and that's an option for any of the members. I don't know that there are any Open Meetings Act rules regarding sending in comments and having them read, but I can check on that. It's never occurred here. If there are no rules, we can also adopt bylaws or practices regarding that. But as it is, we don't have an example of that today.
Okay, no problem. So I'm comfortable with saying that we have opened the floor for public input, and no public input was provided. With that, will Scott please provide the staff report?
Gladly. Can you all see that, or is it still on the agenda?
It is still on the agenda.
Okay, so I have to stop and then switch, I guess.
Okay.
New share. Now,
I'm reading the memorandum.
Yes. Yes.
okay. So we had accepted a couple of months ago a proposal for a bulk rain barrel and compost bin sale. Same sale that we've done for quite a few years. Given the stay-at-home order, we've worked with the vendor to make this an all online, all digital sale with delivery only for all of the purchased products. So delivery will start the week of May 26th. And the quoted prices, of course, did not include delivery because we did not imagine a delivery option. And so the quoted prices were $44 for rain barrels and compost bins. So we just agreed to add a $10 fee for all the products, and just made all the products 54 and 54. Folks can also buy the other accessories that are available from the vendor. If they buy accessories but no rain barrel or compost bin, then they're going to pay a $10 fee. The City of Urbana and City of Champaign incentives are still available, but they won't be taken at the point of sale. They will be available after the sale through the respective cities' rebate forms.
Scott, could I just ask a question? I mean, this is a really good program, and I'm wondering, have you been tracking how many were sold each year? Is that something that we could?
Yes. Typically, as soon as I get a year sales data from the most current year, I compile that with previous years and put it in the staff report. So if you go back through them, you can find them. I can't do it just on the fly today. But it is in the staff report I compile them every year. And it's surprising, we're still, selling a lot of rain barrels, not very many compost bins, but enough rain barrels to continue doing this bulk sale. Other questions?
Are those still available for people to purchase?
Yes. The vendor did not give me, and I should probably ask so I can post it, a cutoff day, but certainly a day or a few days before the delivery starts, they're going to want to cut off new sales. But there's still time.
Would there be a way to share it on like the city website again, just so that folks, because I think I've only seen it posted once or twice so far. Would there be a way to kind of get the word out again?
I think it's on the city website, but we can keep posting it on Facebook so that it rises to the top, so to speak.
And with the Facebook postings, I haven't seen that just because I decided that I would quit Facebook for a little while. When I go to the website that is outlined in your notes, it takes me to the rainbarrel.ca, I believe. And I'm just wondering if you're also posting any instructions, because it is a little bit confusing, I think, just what to do. And I don't know if, maybe folks just kind of can figure it out. But I wouldn't necessarily know if I was just on rainbarrel.ca that I needed to go to the purchase a rain barrel site. And then from there, I would have to scroll down to see the sales, and that I would have to look for Urbana's in particular. Takes you a while to get there, Urbana being a U, so it's kind of at the bottom of the page.
The link we're sharing is rainbarrelfundraising.com/Urbana.
Okay, great. Okay, so eventually I kind of get to that page. And I guess the other question is with delivery, are they delivering via FedEx or UPS, or are all of the barrels coming to Urbana and then Urbana is going to work out delivery through like a city truck?
The city is not providing delivery, the vendor is.
Okay. And so the vendor's based in Canada, so they're just gonna do whatever they do.
They're going to do whatever they do.
Okay. Great. The other thing, and I don't know if this is just a note, is that some credit cards, if people are paying via credit card, do not cover the international fee associated with that. And so some customers may end up surprised to see an international fee after they've checked out of this process. Many credit cards do offer a no kind of transaction, no transaction or no international fees on top of that. But that is also just something to note for the public, that they might want to check their credit cards to make sure that, you know, that they're either going to get the international fee waived, or at least that they are aware that that could be an additional charge.
That's a good point.
Okay. Any other questions regarding rain barrel sales?
All right. Moving on.
That's great. I'm really glad that we're doing this again. I'm excited that it's a program that we can continue with the city of Urbana, even though we're kind of in the midst of a pandemic and we can't all pick up rain barrels from the farmers market this year. I'm excited that there was a way to do this anyway. So that's very exciting, and I'm happy about it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, my intention is to keep doing the sale until, you know, sales decline to the point where, you know, we've kind of soaked up excess or pent up or surplus demand, and then we won't need to do that anymore. But so far, we're still selling. It seems like quite a lot. So,
as just like a future kind of suggestion or proposal, I have not been in a while, so I'm not sure what it looks like, the Urbana rain barrel website, but it might be a good idea to put some resources for homeowners on setting up the rain barrels, because it can be a little bit tricky to just kind of do it on your own, and especially if you're going to set up like kind of you're buying more than one. If you have the roof space, that you're gonna end up with more water than you have capacity for, you might have to string rain barrels together. And I know that for my own household, one experiment did not work well last year, and so we're kind of thinking through, okay, what would be better this year? And so having some additional resources available from the city on the rain barrel website might be helpful to folks in the community that are just not exactly certain, okay, I have this technology or this new technology now, so how exactly do I best, you know, put this up?
it's a good thought. The bid we do requires the vendor to provide setup instructions for the products they sell. That doesn't necessarily mean that that those instructions include every permutation of every site. So for instance, someone who has a particular downspout that brings a lot of rain to a rain barrel that overwhelms the capacity of the overflow orifice of that rain barrel may not be addressed in those instructions, but at least the basic setup instruction.
Yep, I see kind of the basic there. Mm-hmm.
I think that would be helpful, and even how to care for them. One of mine I bought through this a few years ago cracked because I didn't get it down in time in the winter. So other care things might be helpful.
And mosquito control as well. We put some mosquito dunks in ours to keep mosquito larvae from I guess, hatching.
Yeah, maybe, on occasion, it is worth looking at and reviewing and revising all of our stormwater utility stuff. I'm going to call them green infrastructure incentives, and reviewing that content on our website and improving it.
Great. And I think that folks on the commission could also probably point to some resources as well, if that would be helpful, to cut down on the amount of research that staff has to do specifically.
Somewhat, excuse me, I have a senile chihuahua. Sugar, stop. Would there also be a way to potentially put more information on the compost bins, and perhaps that would encourage people to consider getting those as well? Scott, I can't hear you. I think you're
sorry. I don't have a working theory on why we sell so many more rain barrels than compost bins. I mean, to some degree, it's expected because a single household can have 1, 2, 3, 4 rain barrels, but they're probably not going to have more than one compost bin. But the numbers still are pretty different. So I don't have a good theory on why we're selling less compost bins. And as such, I don't have a specific marketing response for that. We make the sale available, and it's kind of the extent of it. But I will add, in the last couple of years, recycling coordinator Courtney Kwong has started working with the Urbana Park District, and they do a composting class. Now, last year they did it along with our sale, and we were going to do that again this year, so that those would be on the same day. But obviously, we're not doing a one-day sale now, and we're having social distancing, so they canceled all of their classes. But that's something we've added to drive more use of home composting. Other thoughts on the sale?
I think that you might see more sales of that if the design of the bins were different and they were the ones on the stand. That's what's keeping me from buying one. And I think a lot of my friends and family, some have had that, and it was really hard to roll that bin around, and the access hole is kind of strange. And I think if there were a different design, there might be more sales of the bins.
I actually had a compost bin that was on a stand, thinking that would be easier, and the weight of the compost just ripped the stand right through the plastic. So the stand is gone, and now it's a compost bin on the ground. And I roll it on the ground to mix it up, and then I flip it on its end to get finished compost out. We have some design specifications in our bid for these products, but they are somewhat general, because we don't want to tighten the design so much that only one vendor can actually meet the qualifications. We've had folks from time to time who, they bought a bin in a previous year's sale, and then later years it's a different vendor, but they want the same style, and I appreciate that from an aesthetic perspective. But from a fairness and procurement perspective, we have to draw the specifications wide enough that something that functions as a rain barrel or compost bin gets a chance to compete on price. But it's a fair point. I'll have to take a look at that, at that particular product again, and see if there's other options there.
Hi, Scott. While you were talking, I looked on their website, and they have instructions on how to make a roll, I guess. So they have
practically speaking, make it.
Yeah, they have a setup where you can make it out of a couple pieces of wood to do that.
Okay.
I was looking to see if what the cost was, or whether it was in U.S. dollars or Canadian dollars. Doesn't say. I'm suspecting it might be U.S. dollars.
Yeah, our prices are quoted in U.S. dollars.
Okay. So if you're buying it from Canada, I was wondering whether you get the exchange rate difference, but that's not. So you wouldn't get an international fee on your credit card. That's U.S. dollars. So.
Okay, moving on to landfill solar development. City Council and the Champaign-Urbana Solid Waste Disposal System have both approved a landfill solar lease with the company SunPower. This will allow SunPower to develop 2 low-income community solar projects for which state incentives have already been secured. So the city, as well as the Champaign-Urbana Solid Waste Disposal System, had to approve it because the project is on 2 different parcels. One of them is owned by the city, and one of them is owned by the system. But it's really one development, so both entities approve lease, and both entities will receive lease payments from the developer. So the developer is now continuing engineering and design, and will soon be moving towards subscription recruitment, which is finding customers to buy that electricity. And I'm very anxious to move that project forward and get some of those great photos of a big solar array across a field that Morgan has enjoyed so much the last few years. I want those too.
Good. We want you to be jealous so that more and more people do solar across Illinois and the world. Are you going to have pollinator? I can't remember. Did you specify what goes under them? Or maybe you just.
Our specifications gave several options. Monarch and pollinator supportive plantings was one of several options. We haven't discussed that topic with the developer yet. We've been working through just all the legalese for the last couple of months. And now they're doing some engineering. When we get a little bit further along in some of those aspects, we can raise the issue. There won't be any obligation on the developer, but it would be a nice feature to add if it can be done.
We heard from the developers that proposed for our second solar farm on campus. We heard that the pollinator supportive plantings are actually lower maintenance long term because you don't have to mow as often. And so they were wanting to do it in some cases because it was cheaper for them. So that's really good news. And then the getting qualified as a pollinator friendly solar array. What we did for the solar farm 2, the plan is there's a certain pollinator supportive plantings under the panels, but then there's also a buffer that's actually outside of what the solar developer is doing, the university is doing. For ours, the buffer of pollinator-friendly plantings along Curtis Road. And that counts towards the pollinator-friendly designation for the solar array. So that's something that if they ended up not doing enough to get the points, maybe the city could look at retrofitting it in the future to get the designation.
Good idea. Would you potentially be able to acquire a white paper or even a quote regarding these other developers' positive experience with the pollinator-friendly plantings?
Yes. I can you email me and I will track down what we got, because it was several months ago, but I think I have some things already that I can share with you. Then also some of the key advocates for it that could give you more information too.
Sounds great.
Mm-hmm. And congratulations. I'm glad that's moving forward. That's great.
Scott, are there any contingencies or dependencies that are required to have like a certain percentage of the subscriptions filled in order to start the build, or is there a timeline in place for moving forward with the build? Let's say that they don't have the solar community solar completely sold out.
So the developer has to energize the systems 18 months from the execution or acceptance of the state incentive.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly when that was. I think it was the first one was October last year.
Okay.
So that gives you a sense of scale of when this thing has to be energized.
Okay.
The city is taking a big chunk of that electricity as an anchor tenant,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest of it, I think the prevailing wisdom is that it will definitely be subscribed.
Okay.
So I don't think there's going to be a problem filling up the subscriptions. There's going to be, it's going to be different, certainly, and perhaps more challenging. You get those subscriptions with social distancing, but I don't think that I don't anticipate the project being delayed on the basis of finding subscribers.
Thank you. And hopefully I'm not too far ahead of ourselves, but I am wondering about groundbreaking and if we will have a little groundbreaking ceremony.
That sounds like a great idea.
Okay.
That's the photo op I'm referring to.
Yes.
Other
I would
questions?
love to be there. I don't know about anybody else on this call. I feel like others would as well. So we would be very excited to attend a groundbreaking ceremony.
I'll get you all an invite.
It'd be really great to make it a community event of some kind, because visits to solar arrays can launch more people thinking about, I thought I might get solar, and then you have like 80% of the people in the crowd say, yeah, I put solar on. You can do the Solar Urbana-Champaign program, et cetera. Go from there. Geothermal is the next stage. I'm thinking the Youth Sustainability Summit and preschools and high schools, everybody, and developers, and huge. It could be our welcome back from non-quarantine. We're gonna visit a solar array.
I like it.
Maybe that's more of a ribbon cutting, though. So there's.
Yeah. We have a few months, but I think yes to all this.
Great. Thank you.
The Landscape Recycling Center, this is maybe old news now, we shut down for a week after the stay-at-home order. We used that time to set up new safety protocols, set up new safety equipment, and also to convert the Landscape Recycling Center, which has always been a cash and check only facility, to a credit card only facility. And so we reopened a week later. We're doing credit card only because we were able to borrow a credit card machine and process and service, whereby we could stick the credit card machine out the window and never had to touch the customer's credit card. So that's been working quite well. We've also simultaneously encouraged folks to utilize delivery of LRC product so that there's once again one less contact. So we're taking delivery order forms in PDF format by email, and then we're calling back those customers and taking their credit card payment over the phone. So then we just show up and drop compost or mulch or what have you in the driveway. So that's been working well, keeping that facility open and in business. really pleased. The credit card setup we have does create redundancies for staff in the booth, which slows down our ability to process and move customers through the line. So we have been developing an agreement with another credit card processor and getting a new piece of equipment that is fully integrated with our cash register so that we can process credit card payments with the same speed that we would otherwise process cash and check. So we'll be rolling that out end of this week, beginning of next week. So we'll continue deliveries, but hopefully in person will be faster. And as of today, we, well, I should mention earlier today, that credit card machine that we were using temporarily had some sort of failure. So we had to close the site for about half of the day today. And then later on, we were able to borrow yet another credit card machine. And the site will be reopened again with a temporary piece of equipment tomorrow morning. And as I mentioned, we hope to have our permanent integrated solution end of this week, beginning of next week. So there's that. We're also at present sold out of garden compost, pulverized topsoil, and mushroom compost. But I understand that we have mushroom compost material on site. It just needs to be processed. But the screened or the pulverized topsoil, I think we make that out of sod and soil that is delivered as disposal. So we'll need more of that disposed of before we make it. And then the garden compost is substantially made from our leaf collection. And we just got some leaves delivered, of course, recently. So we should be able to make some more, but we're going to be out of that for a little while. Okay, moving on to Solar Urbana Champaign. We are moving on to our 5th year. We have, with MREA, Midwest Renewable Energy Association, we have selected an installer for this year. It's Straight Up Solar, who has been an installer in some previous rounds. We are making plans to launch with a digital format, a Zoom format, presumably, and carrying on in that format. Everything else about the program is essentially the same. Fixed per unit price for solar installations, plus a fixed schedule of additional fees for additional services or needs for any particular site. And we'll be using the same website, solarurbanachampaign.com. Any questions there?
No, but I want to say I'm so excited. I remember when we weren't sure if we should do round 3, and now we're doing round 5. It's good. It's good, and hopefully it'll just keep going. We don't have to stop. It can be the new norm.
As long as we feel like we're activating or soaking up pent-up demand through a bulk purchase program, we'll keep doing it. As long as we keep getting competitive interest from vendors, we'll keep doing it. If we get to a point where we're really just mirroring what would otherwise happen, then there's really no need for us to continue. But I say that every year, and here we are in year 5. So, some additional public engagement is noted in the staff report. We did some digital communications around Earth Day and Arbor Day. Earth Day communications, really, the city was to some degree following the lead of their Urbana Park District, who did a great job pulling together partners and promoting some shared but socially distant activities, as well as some digital communications. And then the mayor and the Arbor Division had some nice video content for Arbor Day, and well, we hope to continue a lot of that communications. Yes.
So I'm just wondering about, a question came up with a neighbor of mine for the natural lawn care. Is there a certain type of compost that needs to be used, or could it be, can we just say, I'd like to get some soil compost from the Landscape Recycling Center? And then is there a possibility, just two-part question, is there a possibility of borrowing the city's spreader? Or do people have to get their own somehow?
First question, I think the best product to use to top dress your turf grass is the screen garden compost. The next most similar product would be the pulverized topsoil, but the screen garden compost has probably got more nutrients than that. The mushroom compost is a really high nutrient, maybe is better for your garden beds, but I think the screen garden compost is what you want for top dressing turf grass. And I would encourage core aerating before you do that. On your second question, I don't think the city is in the practice of loaning the equipment, so I don't anticipate that.
Okay.
However, there may be folks out there who want to provide that, this spreading as a service, and so we'll see how that develops. I think that may be somewhat of a new practice here in the community. The city is taking it on. We've been loaning this piece of equipment to the park district for that on a trial basis, for them to try out on a ball field. And if it works out for them, they're going to buy their own spreader. Theirs is way too small for that size of field. So we're hopeful that this will be an advantageous practice and start spreading.
I wonder if, that's funny. I wonder if we could, if you have considered or could consider doing I know we did the CCNet explanation of it and the event about the Midwest Grows Green, but I'm wondering about like a city-sponsored meeting, or maybe the SAC could help coordinate a meeting where we're inviting lawn care professionals from our community, from our local region. So all the folks that we see driving around with a lawnmower, to how to do lawn care in a more sustainable way, and we could give them some examples and some resources.
It's something we've contemplated, and we certainly, because we had the contacts, we invited institutional property managers, landscape managers, so folks from the school district, the park district, the city of Champaign Park District, our own Arbor crew, invited them to the Midwest Grows Green event that we had. And just for the very purposes you're describing, to share some of these practices we want to encourage with the people who are actually doing the landscape management. So I think it's a great idea. It's just a question of staff throughput.
Right. And of course, the social distancing makes it difficult too.
Morgan, that might be something for us to explore as well through CCNet, and to target a specific business audience for this. I'd be happy to put some thought around that, and we might be able to invite Scott and other experts on the more sustainable practices in lawn care and lawn care management to that. So even if it's something that, it could be, I mean, I'm just sort of imagining, this could be almost a partnership between CCNet and the city of Urbana for this, for example. And I'd be happy to be doing some of the invitations to targeted audiences. It'd be a great idea to explore further.
Yeah, I have actually contemplated this type of idea for the Landscape Recycling Center. They would have a specific interest in it, since a lot of the product that we're talking about they sell. But at the time that would have made sense to do that, we were getting internet installed at the Landscape Recycling Center ticket booth, which
Uh-huh.
was fortuitous because then we had to go to all credit card transactions, which was the whole point of installing the internet there. And so it never came together. But I think the partners you're describing make a lot of sense, and might be something we can put together for spring next year.
Mm-hmm. And maybe we could, maybe CCNet could take the lead as far as coordinating it. And LRC could host it, and then, you're part of CCNet anyway, but that might just be a way to get it to happen without taking too much staff time, and yet still coordinating things. We could probably get a student from campus from one of the capstone classes to sort of take this on. I know a lot of them are very interested in more sustainable practices outdoors. The Bee Campus Committee is huge. And I think given the opportunity to spread into the professional realm, right? So this is a green job to learn how to do this kind of management. It's part of some of our vision from the resilience discussions as well. I'm excited. Let's do it.
Yeah.
When we let's talk to CCNet about it.
Let's follow up on that. Next commission meeting would be June 2nd at 7 p.m. in the council chambers if we're meeting in public. Otherwise, we'll be putting Zoom.
I am on the Landscape Recycling Center website about disposal and unacceptable items and acceptable materials and bulk plant materials. One question that I have heard come up for my own household as well as some neighbors is whether or not weeds are acceptable to be taken for compost by the LRC. All the dandelions that we have around, all the violets, other weedy material, is that something that is acceptable and taken by the LRC? It doesn't say it's unacceptable.
No, we accept for disposal woody material, non-woody material. We're not discriminating in terms of native or non-native, invasive, exotic. The piles generate a lot of heat. Some of those weed seeds are gonna get killed. I don't know enough about the operation to say much more than that.
Okay.
But that's something that's actually would be really good Facebook content to put up on LRC from time now and again. So let me make a note on that.
Great, thank you.
Another thing maybe goes with some of that and the lawn care is maybe some information about invasive species and things, like fighting bush honeysuckle in my yard and trying to talk to my neighbors about it, but just wonders like, why aren't there signs about this everywhere? I feel like a lot of people are almost like encouraging it to grow in their yards.
So there is a statewide, there's two statewide lists. One of them, and I don't remember what they're called, but one of them prohibits tolerating certain plant species on your property. Like if it volunteers, you're obligated to remove it. Another one, I think, prohibits maybe the sale of certain invasive species. Those lists are actually fairly short or narrow. So a lot of aggressive or invasive species aren't necessarily prohibited. And bush honeysuckle, I don't know. I don't know if that appears on one, the other, or neither of those lists. So something that we're interested in and will potentially use to inform the forthcoming city comprehensive plan is a nature and urban biodiversity lens, which all of these things, natural lawn care, natives, pollinators, invasives, exotics, would all potentially have a role in that kind of structure or lens or approach. but that's something that's going to be considered in the future. Right now, in terms of landscapes, the city has some very limited rules in terms of new development. So you have to plant a tree in certain places, and there may be some limited listing of plants, but it's not extremely prescriptive or proscriptive. We also have some nuisance ordinances, but they are, again, not extremely prescriptive or proscriptive. They're really about health, safety, welfare. So you can't have tall plants in the right of way because then you can't see a kid walking down the sidewalk. And you can't leave your turf grass unmowed because that invites vermin. But beyond that, we don't have and then we also have the prohibited plant list. So for instance, you can't tolerate bull thistle in your yard. Even if it volunteers, it's your obligation to remove it. Beyond those limits, though, we don't have a lot of programming. We need to consider carefully what we have capacity for. Mm-hmm. But I like all these thoughts.
Okay, thank you very much for the staff report. The next agenda item would be to see if there are any updates from the youth, the youth sustainability organization and from their event. Maddie would have presented that this evening, but she's not here. I would just check to see if Morgan, if you've checked in with Aurora at all on any updates for that. And if not, that's okay, and we can include it on the agenda for next month.
I think we should definitely include it for next month because I'm not highly informed about what's been going on, but my daughter has been invited to some meetings. I think they're every 2 or 3 weeks to continue discussions. They had sort of, let's talk about what we can do. And she had stepped down just for the remainder of the semester. So she's going to get back involved in the summer. So we're not up to date right now. And also, I don't know if anyone else is in the loop on that right now.
Just as a quick update, so the youth sort of sustainability committee, they are calling themselves the Youth Climate Forum. And it also sounds like, and I'm excited for it, that they will be producing a brief podcast series. And they also may be interviewing Representative Carol Ammons as well as Scott Tess on this call this evening. So I look forward to the results of that soon. So thank you. Scott, do you know when they're producing the podcast and when it's going to go live?
I don't know. I did record it, I think, Friday.
Excellent. That's awesome. Thank you. Okay. So next on the agenda is the staff presentation on annual metrics and the annual report. I do have one question. So I see that we have documents relating to that, including the Urbana annual report, as well as the Urbana materials management report. There was one additional item as part of the packet, which was the response to energy legislation for the from the Clean Jobs Coalition. Is that part of this report, Scott, or is this something different?
No, that's for your information only.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so go right ahead with your report and we'll do what we always do.
So in the past, this has been an annual Environmental Sustainability Division report. Given the restructuring of responsibilities and some new focus and lens added to our work with the addition of resilience. We've renamed this Sustainability and Resilience annual report. I don't know if that makes sense in terms of formatting, but we'll think about that. We have our new compost spreader that we're using for city landscapes to replace synthetic fertilizers and pesticides there, partially grant funded. Some updates to this paragraph, which is just kind of a general introduction to the sustainability and resilience framework or work that we're doing, and some summary of the budget that we're working with. I had wanted to add information and the budget numbers for the Landscape Recycling Center to this report. However, the way that data is collected and tracked for the Landscape Recycling Center is, it wasn't designed for this kind of reporting. It was designed for just managing a retail site. So I need to do some work on developing, that data collection and analysis before we can really report out on it in the way that we like to do here, which is summary chart that shows a trend with a sidebar of anecdotes. Historically, we've always had these pie charts on progress on our 2 comprehensive plans within the sustainability and resilience world. Both of these plans term out this year, so this will be the last time you see this. In terms of large comprehensive planning, we're going to roll that into the citywide comprehensive plan. So if you were to look now on the city's website, you might find a comp plan, a comprehensive plan, but that is actually a comprehensive land use plan, specific, narrow. What the city will be developing is a comprehensive plan for the entire city. So all topics that warrant comprehensive planning, such as sustainability and resilience, will get their section within that plan. Any questions there?
Yeah, actually, do we know, I hate asking this question because I feel like the answer is always, I don't know. And so maybe the answer is, I don't know. But do we know when the comprehensive planning effort is anticipated to launch for the city?
So the city has already hired a coordinator or organizer, I don't know what title they're using for that process. They've hired someone to manage the process, 2-year process, I suppose, of developing a comprehensive plan. And so she's already working, collecting data, making arrangements. In terms of when can the public expect to be invited to meetings and shown information and documents, that I don't have an answer for. I would anticipate this calendar year, but it's hard to make predictions when we're dealing with a stay-at-home order. But that's my expectation.
Thanks.
Everyone can see the document I'm scrolling through, right? Okay. So our community-wide greenhouse gas emissions chart has been updated with a new inventory. You may recall that the different colors are different sectors of the economy. There's 2 dotted lines. The one in near the middle of the chart is our 25% reduction by 2020 goal. The dotted line at the bottom of the chart is our carbon neutral by 2040, I believe it was, goal. So we were very close to our 25% reduction by 2020 following the 2017 inventory. Between 2017 and 2019, a few things happened. Several sectors increased in consumption, gas and electric. And I think I have that in the sidebar. Residential electricity and natural gas increased. Also, the carbon intensity of electricity production in our grid subregion, as reported by US EPA, increased from 2017 to 2019. We're actually using the most recent data, which is the 2018 publication. So both of those together has pushed our greenhouse gas emissions up a little bit. Very disappointing. I was hoping to continue that downward trend, but we will continue to make progress, expand more renewables, expand efficiency, and hopefully get there by the time we do our next inventory in 2021. Oh, one other element which actually I need to add to this report that contributed to not reaching that 25% goal is we purchased and retired less renewable energy credits with our aggregation program this year. That one can presume in part was because there was some distance between the city's aggregation price and what prices folks could get otherwise from Ameren and from the market. And so we lost some customers, and if they're not on our aggregation, we're not buying renewable energy credits for their consumption. So that was another contributing factor. So we are coming to the end of our municipal electric aggregation contract, and that ends December of this year. We'll be rebidding that and getting new pricing and having another round of that. Looks like there's some formatting I need to work on here. But you can see our annual savings from municipal electric aggregation have been negative. The last couple of years, we signed a 3-year agreement before the last presidential election, expecting fossil fuel electricity prices to increase. That didn't happen, and so we haven't been as competitive as we would have hoped.
Can I make a comment on this? I'm really glad to see that the cumulative is still positive. It's 0, but this is what we call grid parity, right? I mean, this is the comparison to conventional electricity, is it not? I mean, that's
true.
That's something that we're hoping to achieve on renewables, is that they would come out. I guess the aspirational hope is that they will save money, but just the idea, just the fact that we're seeing that, in some years it saved a lot of money, and ultimately over the course of this time, it's come out slightly to the positive as opposed to negative at all, is great. And then I think that it's just important to recognize that this is the dollars component, right? This is cash flow savings. This is not looking at the impact on our environment and the externalities of renewable energy. And if you put in the numbers that our state have for tons of carbon dioxide equivalent not emitted into the atmosphere, the carbon credit concepts, and if you put that out there, and they're talking about $16 a ton, right, in the Future Energy Jobs Act, and it's just, when we look at this, people who are out there reviewing this, we want you to understand this is a positive thing. We've accomplished getting these clean energy for our community at no final net increase in our costs, and at the same time cut back on the air pollution and cut back on the associated asthma and river pollution and all the things that the whole world needs to be dealing with. So I'm really happy to see that. It's a positive story, and I hope that we are able to get another great renewal of the municipal aggregation, because that had a huge impact on our community. So
yes, yeah, it's
letting me say that.
It's a substantial, the purchase and retirement of renewable energy credits through municipal electric aggregation is a substantial portion of our greenhouse gas reductions. And as Morgan said, all at over the 7 years, 8 years, all at a essentially cost neutral cumulative effect. And hopefully we'll get more competitive pricing next round, and we'll have better savings year on year in the near future. This chart is not updated because we do a greenhouse gas emissions inventory every other year for community and for facilities. So it just shows the 2018. And then we have a little note about the 2019 Solar Urbana-Champaign program.
Scott?
Yes.
Would it be useful to have a graph sometime maybe in the future about accumulating all the Solar Urbana installations and show kind of something about those collectively?
Yeah, I have good data on that. If I stick it here in the sidebar, it may be too small, but it's something we can look at. Otherwise, I'd have to bump one of these other charts to keep that format consistent. But yeah, I do have pretty extensive data for our year on year, and so it may be time to pull that out and publish it. Our community water consumption continues to decline just barely, but still quite impressive that our consumption still is declining over that period. Just incremental improvements in efficiency, I guess. No big efforts that I know of. Per capita water consumption flattening out, but still kind of on a downward trajectory. Quite amazing. We have very low per capita water consumption compared nationally. And we've got a little sidebar note on Midwest Grows Green Natural Lawn Care Program. Facilities water consumption still declining. There's probably not a lot more to be gained there. In terms of irrigation, we've made improvements. Probably not a lot to gain. In terms of buildings, we made some big improvements in 2012, 2013, and that's reflected in our consumption on the chart. Everything else in terms of facilities improvements is going to be pretty small and incremental. And at some point in the next several years or decade, the city's going to build, construct new facilities. And so our consumption will go up, but in part our square footage will go up as well. Our community waste diversion chart is interesting. You can see an expansion in the amount of materials that we recycle. The amount that we've been landfilling is pretty steady. Composting is fairly steady. The amount recycled, we don't necessarily have, we don't have a strong causation as to why, but we speculate that this is due to, or at least in part due to, so much more products being delivered to the door in cardboard. And whereas before, it was delivered to the store in cardboard, and the store might recycle it or they might throw it away, but it's hard to capture that in our data. Here, it's going to the door and then going into U-Cycle, which we have pretty good data collection on. So we think that's potentially why we're recycling more. But in 2019, our data shows total waste diversion above 15%, which is quite high for the U.S. So that's good. We would like to see that landfill number decline more rather than just the recycled number increase. We have a little note on the side reduction. can see specifically the split between new cycle multifamily and curbside. Big increase in multifamily.
Scott, on the previous page, you show water consumption, sort of community water consumption, and then per capita. I'm wondering about something similar for waste, if it's possible to break those numbers down onto a per capita basis.
Do you think that would be more useful than the multifamily curbside split?
I think it could be potentially.
Yeah.
Is it,
Yeah, I'm open.
there is a matter of space and that you're trying to keep everything to like the number of pages that you have, so without making it any larger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be more interesting than tracking the relative proportions of curbside and multifamily, you know, to see it per capita.
It might be just from like from a behavioral standpoint. It from a consumer behavior standpoint, it's easier, I think, for someone to look at, oh, on a per capita basis, and then kind of associate, okay, how many pounds of waste am I, you know, generating, kind of compared to that. It's a little harder or tougher to kind of make that connection when I'm just looking at, you know, 25,000 tons of landfill. It's much harder for me to think, okay, so what's my contribution to that?
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna do that chart.
Okay, great.
Take a look at it. Another formatting problem there I'll fix.
Okay.
Battery recycling is a little erratic. Don't have a theory why. If people are using more rechargeables, they're going to generate less batteries for recycling, and so I kind of wish that were the case. We have, I think we have our battery recycling by battery type, but I'm not sure that we don't get that in Excel, I don't think, so we'd have to key it in from print reports. So I'm not sure that we actually have that ready for data analysis. So I don't have a theory beyond that. So this is new this year. Again, trying to make this less of a division report and more of a citywide sustainability and resilience report. Street trees, the urban forest. You know, I'm open to thoughts on, you know, what our lens or our framework or wording is going to be on this. But trees are enormously important for sinking carbon, for cooling houses without AC, for cooling sidewalks and bike lanes so that it's pleasant to take non-motorized travel. And so we have three goals, long-standing goals really, for the diversity of our urban forest by spreading our beds across many species, family, genus, and species. We ensure that no particular disease is going to wipe out a large proportion of our street trees. And so I've reported those in the additional information, and then I've also shown just this, you know, the top, I guess it's 5 or 6 genus and species over time. So to reiterate, we want the proportion of any particular genus or species to be low. And so you see that trend. The city's been diversifying the species they plant for years. We have met our family goal to be below 30%. We're not quite there, having all of our genus below 15%. We have Acer above, which is maples. So we have many silver maples, sugar maples, that sort of thing. And we have a couple of species above our 5% threshold for the species. And you'll see that 2 of them are Acer. The other one, Malus, SPP, means species, plural. Malus is the apple family. So crab apples, that sort of thing. Then there's another acer. And then Platanus occidentalis, I don't remember, and Quercus rubra, I think is red oak. Anyone know Platanus occidentalis?
I do not, but I was actually in that vein, at least on the genus side. Could you include the what's it called, the
Common name?
the common name?
That would be a huge help, I think.
I think common names would be helpful.
Yes.
So that's sycamore, the one you were asking about.
Sycamore?
Yeah, and I was already asked why that was dropping, but
Say again?
I was wondering why that was dropping. Was there more taken out, or?
Presumably, yeah. You know, we removed a few and didn't plant them in that time.
I've been having some thoughts about kind of edible fruiting trees or something in some of the other vacant tree sites. I didn't know if there was like liability issues or they were messy or something.
There is a concern that putting fruit trees over a bike lane or a sidewalk, it can produce just displeasure as the fruit falls and rots, but also a potential slip hazard. I think there are right-of-ways in the city that are quite wide, where a fruit tree, like a service berry, for instance, if it dropped berries, it would drop them in the planting area, not on the street or on the sidewalk. And so we've done that. The city's done that, and I think that's a good balance. So I think that's the current approach from our division. And then the last chart on this page are vacant tree sites. I have the absolute number so you can see the proportion of the decline. The absolute number is up here in the additional information box. So at the end of 2019, this is a new report that we now have in our third-party software, Treekeeper, as are these species and genus reports. So 4,114 vacant tree sites in the city. So a vacant tree site is a space where city vendor or city staff nowadays has identified a good planting site for a tree, but there is as yet no tree there. Years ago, the city had a vendor inventory all the street trees and also all of the vacant tree sites. And that's an inventory that now city staff update themselves from time to time as trees are added or removed. So I think that's a good number to keep in mind because it gives us a sense of, if one were to presume that eventually you want no vacant tree sites, we know what the number is.
Hey, Scott, I have a question. In regards to the vacant tree sites, the most recent one occurred in front of my house just today. Do they have any plans to potentially hire a little more staff just for the period in which tree planting is at the most beneficial for the tree? Sorry, I didn't say that very well. Because my understanding is there aren't really a lot of people that are taking down these trees and replanting trees. I mean, would there be a way to put funds in just for, brief period of time to get some of these vacant tree sites filled?
I have the number something like $100 or $120 a tree maybe to plant, so you can do the math there. But in order to increase the total number of trees that the city owns, maintains in the right-of-way, we not only have to pay for the tree, pay for the labor to plant the tree, we also have to increase our ongoing every single year tree maintenance funding. Because if we don't properly prune the trees we have, the additional trees we would like, we create safety hazards and we reduce the lifespan of the tree. So we have to do a couple of things at once to whittle down this vacant tree site number. We have to fund tree planting, and we have to fund tree maintenance. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do one or the other. So we had some trees destroyed by a tornado, and the city got some grant money and some donor money to replace those trees. But if you think about it, we were already at that level of tree maintenance funding. So we're just bringing our tree count back up to parity with our tree maintenance fund. In order to get both of those, in order to increase our total number of trees, we need to fund more maintenance. So that's the challenge.
So this is Morgan. One of the a few thoughts are in my head I want to share. One, I think for the graph, it would be better to say the number, because people are more likely to look at a graph, and having them know there's 4,000, there used to be 40, there's 4,100, there used to be 4,300, and then maybe put the percentage in the paragraph. I think that would be good. The other thing is, partially we're sharing this, and this is information that's going out there to the community, and hopefully it's part of the comprehensive planning discussion that happens when the public, and so there's a piece of, could we get people to donate money for a tree? Like, you could actually possibly put in the text here, I think there's a little bit of space, you could probably find a spot for, if you're interested in donating trees to the city, call Scott or something like that, right? And then, but the other piece is exactly what you were talking about. This is the third thing I'm thinking about, is the campus has a tree endowment program. And I think the word endowment might be a university word, but couldn't the city couldn't someone donate a tree and enough money to maintain it, at current cost and cost of living increases and whatever, like a donation fund for the tree maintenance?
That would be a substantial donation. Now, in my thinking of what an endowment is, I think it's typically enough money to put into an investment whereby the dividends or profits from the investment are pulled out, and that's used for that charitable purpose, so that it's reoccurring, because the core nest egg is still the same and generating profit. So I don't know if that's maybe what the tree endowment is, or if it's a lump sum that is actually being whittled down and will eventually.
No, it's the thing where the interest goes. But does the city have endowments, or is it even an option for the city? I don't know.
I don't think it's illegal, but I think it's not common, because it would be similar to someone volunteering to pay more taxes.
Yeah, so I'm kind of wondering a couple of things. So Morgan, I really like what you were thinking. There's a little bit of blank space here, and what's the public engagement piece with this, right? Mm-hmm. So you were thinking around, okay, well, maybe it's, we have you donate here. I was thinking maybe with some of the blank space, it's, do you check on seeing if you have one of these vacant sites. How do you even know that maybe you have one of these vacant sites and that it is maybe eligible under this program? In terms of the sort of fundraising or organizational aspect to it, cities don't have like a 501c3 status, right? Okay, so I don't believe that like the city has a 501c3 status, for example, but I feel like there could be with work and some organizing, a nonprofit set up as like a nonprofit tree foundation locally that that fund would be sort of a 501c3 that people could donate to, and if that was something that they could take advantage of on their taxes, and that's, you know, how they would do that. But then that fund is applied to by like city entities within the county or whatever for funds for tree maintenance or for new trees or something. I could see it being a partnership there that becomes a real win. There's also the program where if you have a vacant lot, and maybe something needs to be said about it here, or if it's just more of an educational campaign, that there's like cost share opportunity where if you're the homeowner, maybe you have that cost share where the city goes in and you go in order to take care of it. If you're not coming in under one of the kind of emergency replanting programs from the tornadoes in South Urbana or something else like that.
So a couple responses. From time to time, there have been donations made to the city for tree replanting just recently. And those are, as Stacy described, made to a 501c3 tax deductible organization, which then passes on that money to the city for the specific purpose. However, because with the recent tax law changes, almost all households in the U.S. do a standard deduction. So, a $100 donation for planting a tree isn't going to be written off on your taxes. And so after a couple of years of being told, nope, just get the standard deduction, people are going to start figuring it out. Larger donations from folks with more tax liability can still be usefully itemized and deducted from their taxes. So that's still possible. In that sense, it's not a bad idea to pursue. However, we still have the problem that if we were to add 1,000 additional trees next year and go from 4,000 to 3,000, there's a real question what happens then over the course of the next 10 to 50 years if we're not funding additional maintenance. So I think we need to contemplate a way to make these go together.
But we need to think outside of. We are constantly looking at one particular issue, and within this lens, how do we resolve this issue? And as a city, when we start talking about the comprehensive planning, there are roads that we have funding, or before COVID, there was a capital plan for funding additional roads, and the capital plan that is using our tax dollars was looking at how do we improve this pavement for the car-centric society. We need to find those conversations and say, instead of repaving this other road or connecting Florida from, Abercorn to High Cross Road, which is on the long-term Urbana land use plan, or transportation plan, instead of doing that and spending tax dollars of our community to sprawl and to change the number of vehicles going past that little grade school at Anderson in Florida, we can instead use those dollars towards enhancing the tree canopy, and that requires both funding 4,000 trees. I mean, come on, that's way less than a new city street. But then incorporating some of that cost needs to go towards more maintenance so that we can actually achieve the vision that we all talk about, but then it just isn't in the function yet. So,
Morgan,
yeah.
I think you're suggesting, referring to a principle or a value which I share, which is that street trees are an essential urban infrastructure, and they should be treated as such, that they're not extra. So I think in terms of communications, that's the big picture value that I think would be useful to share. And just like building a road, there's an installation cost, and then there's a maintenance cost. And if you're not prepared to repave the road, patch the road for 30 years and then repave it every 30 years, don't build the road. Likewise with our street tree infrastructure. I also want to add, while we're talking about vacant trees, there is a public-facing map, Google Maps sort of style of all of our street trees on urbana.mytreekeeper.com. If you open up the layers, which is an icon on the right-hand side, you can unselect all the street trees and you can select all the vacant tree sites. So that's really fun to explore.
Could you put that link in this report?
Sure, that's a great idea.
Is Urbana a tree city with the Arbor Day Foundation?
We have been every year for decades.
Since the Tree City designation program was created during, I think, the first Earth Day, but it's been, since the beginning of the program, it's been a Tree City every year and gets awards and stuff.
Is that a potential partner, like you were saying, for working with donations and funding and kind of bridging that gap with the city and the public, like their board?
Yeah, actually, I was going to bring up a potential partner. So I've recently, I would say, I think it was November, I joined the Champaign County Design and Conservation Foundation as a board member, and I'm pleased to say that I was elected the president after the next, I think it's president-elect until the annual meeting, which is waiting for the quarantine to be over. But I've been working with the existing board of that to understand the core vision for this particular foundation. So it's called the Champaign County Design and Conservation Foundation. It's been around a long time, and it like one of the significant things that you all probably know that it was involved in was the Kickapoo Rail Trail. So that was one of their core efforts, which took 30 years. And but one of the things is we have really a trio leading it now, or as soon as we get affirmed after the meeting. So that's Lacey Rains from the City of Champaign Planning Division and Eliana Brown from the U of I Extension and the Red Oak Rain Garden Director. So they are the vice presidents and I'm the president, and the three of us are looking at how do we move forward. And a core function of CCD, of the Champaign County Design and Conservation Foundation, is trees. And it's an existing 501c3, and we're just looking at what will this look like. So when I think it was Stacy who suggested some sort of partnership, and then I really like to look at how CCDC could be involved in that kind of partnership. It's really, it's an organization that is going to relaunch, I think is how I would put it as far as where it stands right now.
Sounds like you have some good support options with that already.
We'll want your help, Grace, for sure.
I don't know much, but I in Charleston, when we did a lot of tree planting in the city, and the Tree City Foundation board worked together a lot.
That sounds great. Yeah, we're still just trying to bring more people into that particular group, but we have now more representation of like the Champaign Park District, the Urbana Parks District, the Forest Reserve District, and such. If anyone's interested, you can ask Scott and he'll connect you, and I'll make sure he knows how.
Oh, thanks.
All right, moving on. Our last page, we notes of awards and grants. So the solar incentives for the Low-Income Community Solar, the grant funding from Lumpkin Family Foundation for Midwest Grows Green program, and some grant money from Morton Arboretum for replacing some of those tornado damaged trees. And that is the report.
Very nice report. Very user friendly.
Agreed. Thank you for sharing. Any other questions on the report?
Before we leave that, let me just mention that I enjoy sharing the draft with SAC because every year I get excellent comments, excellent advice, excellent review. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay. Now, Scott, are you planning on taking us through the materials management report this evening?
No, I was not. That's additional information for you. That is the detail that forms the summary information on the recycling page of the annual report.
Okay, great. With Mayor Marlin, she does like monthly updates via video and has a lot of communication to the community. Do you envision that the summary report and supporting documentation to that would be a topic for some additional community engagement? How does that usually go out? I feel like I've been in this position for a while and I haven't really tracked like if there's, when the reports are ready and they roll out, if they're accompanied by a press release or if there's going to be some sort of video or short presentation to the public.
So I think it's a great idea to maybe pull out the most interesting elements from the annual report, this Sustainability and Resilience Annual Report, and suggest it as content for the mayor's email.
Great.
She has a reoccurring email and a reoccurring video. And we post it on the city website. We can do some, we can put it in we have sent it as a standalone email, but probably putting it in the mayor's email that probably is the largest list right now and the most read list from the city, I would imagine. So I think that's good exposure and happy to take other suggestions.
Since we did go over a draft this evening, what is the timeline for releasing the final?
That is entirely dependent on what other things break in the next week that I have to fix. But looking at the notes I've taken, I would imagine days, not weeks, probably, that I can make these amendments and get it published. And then it'll be just a matter of when the final lines up with the next mayor's email and video.
Sure.
But we could say certainly May.
Excellent.
Normally this is done earlier in the year. It's finished earlier in the year, but
it's been quite a year. Quite a year. No problem with that. Okay. All right, well, thank you for the presentation on that. I look forward to reviewing the additional documents that accompanied this meeting, including the materials management documents, as well as the document about the Clean Energy Jobs Act have we had a presentation about CEJA before the commission? I should remember this, but I don't remember.
I don't think so.
If we had, it was quite a while ago.
Okay. What I would entertain a motion here if someone was interested in having a presentation on CEJA and any related. I'll just leave it at that. Would folks want to learn more about CEJA as part of a SAC meeting?
Before we have that piece, do you know just sort of the timing? Is that, I mean, is this something that's going really fast, or is kind of might even wait for a new president, plausibly? Just curious.
Well, CEJA is a state law. I don't
Okay,
think it's going
so it's not. It's all local.
but there's not a lot happening in the General Assembly right now. I think they are mobilizing to find a way to start convening and meeting and passing laws again. But that means that everything is all crammed up together on the agenda. And so, yeah, everything's been delayed, and I couldn't comment on whether this is going to be at the top of the agenda to address or middle of the problem.
Yeah, I'd be interested in having a presentation. I'd love to hear someone who is has some expertise on it, talking about what we might expect from the plunge, like the negative natural gas pricing and things like that have been happening with the quarantine. I think it's maybe a different topic, but they tie together some. In my mind, they tie together. Do we need a motion to ask for an agenda item? I think we can just see.
I don't think so. I think that I can just go ahead and work with Scott to create an agenda item for a future meeting on this. But hearing that there's interest on the topic is helpful, and so that will provide some kind of a roadmap for what we might do with that. This was the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition, so I might reach out there, or Scott might reach out there, or with a number of other organizations that are interacting with CEJA, and see who would be most appropriate for a presentation.
I'd also like to ask if this would be an appropriate area to have the campus's draft Illinois Climate Action Plan presented during the summer months. It's got a draft version that's being vetted by several people on campus right now, and there's a resilience component that has, or a team that has Scott on it for the city of Urbana, and it also has Champaign and Savoy represented in the Regional Planning Commission. And we will be finalizing it next fall. So I think it'd be a good topic, but I wanted to know if you guys agree.
I do, and I am also wondering if there are student leaders that are part of the ICAP that we might request to present about that. Okay.
Yes.
That's great. So you were thinking this summer, potentially?
Yeah, I don't recommend the June one, but July or even early August.
Okay. And is that an opportunity for there to be, like, if there were to be community feedback, to provide some feedback on the ICAP during that time? Like, if we had questions or something from the city, could that be incorporated, or is it pretty much this is the finalized version that's going to be printed in September
So the actual final version is in October.
Okay.
It'll be signed off by the chancellor at the campus sustainability celebration, which is usually, I think, the third week in October.
Okay.
It's going to be separate from the IC Congress, which is now scheduled for the beginning of October.
Okay.
And then the semi-final draft is what was presented during Earth Week by students at the ICAP forum, as far as if you want to really influence substantive changes, those really need to come in the next couple weeks. And then there will be some resolution of larger questions that will happen over the summer, mostly through the university administrative components. But I think it's still useful to share, and it wouldn't lock out if there was some great solution brought up that we would want to incorporate. We still could during July or August.
Sure.
But it's really the process. It's kind of like we start from everything, and then I have this as our list, and we hone in, and we would be presenting around here, and then it gets approved, and then we start trying to get it back out. So it's kind of late to make a major change in the summer.
Okay. So yeah, I think that we could consider having a presentation on the ICAP as well later in the summer. Thank you. Let's see. All right, is there anything else? Are there any announcements?
Nope.
Okay. All right, with no further agenda items or business before the commission, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting this evening. Thank you, everybody, for participating.